Oh, recording? Alright. Breaking news, back with some...
Come on, we're not filming a YouTube video. Let's do it again.
Fine. We begin tonight with breaking news from Japan. At 2:46 this afternoon, one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded, a magnitude 9.0, struck off the northeastern coast. Within minutes, a massive tsunami slammed into coastal towns, sweeping away homes, businesses, and entire communities. Thousands are feared dead, and many more are missing tonight. But out of new crisis unfolding. At the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, the tsunami knocked out the cooling systems. Explosions have been reported, and radiation is leaking into the surrounding areas. Officials have declared a nuclear emergency, the worst since Chernobyl. More than 150,000 residents from the Fukushima region have been ordered to evacuate immediately. Families are rushing onto buses, children are being carried to safety, and entire towns are being left behind in a matter of hours. Soldiers and emergency crews are on the ground, guiding people to shelters and delivering supplies. This is a rapidly developing situation with fears of radiation spreading, cleanup efforts beginning, and questions growing about how Japan will recover from what is being called a triple disaster: earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear meltdown. To bring us closer to the scene, we now turn to our reporters on the ground.
Thank you, Vincent. I'm here in Fukushima, where you can see behind me all the disaster that has been caused. The cleanup operation is underway. As we speak, there is currently workers in full protective suits, gloves, boots, and respirators being cautious through the wreckage, trying to remove the contaminated debris piece by piece. We have received notice from officials that they estimate hundreds of thousands of radioactive soil rub-on waste that will need to be collected and processed. This movement has to be slow and deliberate because of how high the risk is from the exposure. We see how things are so delicate here, but at the Fukushima Daiichi plant itself, the cleanup is even more dangerous. This hydrogen explosion tore through reactor number 1 and 3, causing for highly radioactive debris to scatter across the facility. It is said that about 1,000 workers who have been helping has now been reduced to what we are now calling the Fukushima 50. A group risking their lives inside to clean up rubble, stabilize the site, and continuing pumping seawater into the reactors to keep them cool. From what we are aware, the shifts are only lasting minutes before workers must withdraw to avoid dangerous doses of radiation. Groups are trying to also focus scraping away topsoil from schoolyards, playgrounds, and farmland. There is also black bags being stacked on open fields that are quickly filling with waste. It is already expected to be millions of cubic meters. Temporary incineration facilities is a task that is deemed urgent. These incinerators will be using advanced filters to trap these radioactive particles before the smoke is released into the air. They are designed to handle low-level radioactive debris, for example wood, household waste swept from the tsunami. From the few engineers I've had the opportunity to speak to earlier, say this is vital to reduce the material that is piling up. Residents are fearful about the safety coming from the burning contaminated waste. We have been notified of 170,000 residents being evacuated within a 20-kilometer radius of the plant. Families are lining up for radiation screening at the shelters. More than 2,000 people have already been checked. Distributions of tablets have been given to protect against thyroid cancer, since it is considered to be a long-term risk of radiation exposure. Since World War II, this is a nation's worst crisis that we have seen has happened, stated by the Japanese government. Supplies are arriving as well as international aid. We are seeing the usual naval forces offshore are also supporting the efforts here on the ground. The cleanup is low, hazardous, and exhausting. Officials are stating this is just the beginning. The main priority is to have control and contain the radioactive material to be able to protect the population and stabilize. The plant experts have warned that the full cleanup will take decades, not just months. The cleanup still continues here in Fukushima under dangerous conditions and certain timelines. We will keep bringing you the latest developments as the story unfolds. Vincent, back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Ari, for that update on the cleanup efforts. While workers in protective suits are battering contamination, soldiers have also been called in to help with evacuations and provide safety for residents. Joining us now is one of those soldiers who has been serving on the front lines of this crisis.
Thanks for having me on, Vincent. Good afternoon, America. I'm Staff Sergeant V. Hill, United States Air Force. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what we've been doing the last couple of days, which is going to be Operation Tomodachi. On Friday, March 11th, which is the initial day of the disaster, a triple disaster, earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear meltdown, we had multiple U.S. Navy vessels in the area. USS Ronald Reagan conducted search and rescue missions and refueling operations to keep Japan's air up and moving. We had USS McCampbell and USS Curtis Wilfer. Those were going to be operating under Japanese authority. They were aiding in search and rescue. So we had operators out there on the field. They were looking in the ocean, looking for possible lives lost out there, trying to rescue what they can who survived. For the USS Tortuga, they were conducting a joint operation with Korea, which is one of our allies, and their job was to go pick up heavy airlifting vehicles so that way we can go ahead and move debris out of the way. And for the USS Blue Ridge, they were conducting humanitarian support, so they were also aiding in the search and rescue, but they were also helping coordinate and set up shelters, provide food to aid those families that are in need and in loss. On March 13th, we added more additional humanitarian support. So we conducted more food drives. We dropped about 50,000 pounds of rice, and we also were still aiding with search and rescue at the time, helping clear the sea and debris and helping locate individuals and sadly tragic casualties. On March 14th, we had 50,000 U.S. military personnel operating in Japan. They were providing disaster relief on all those previous missions that I already talked about, aiding in Japan's military and government to help establish and reassert themselves and to help protect that population. We also had a big shift happen on March 14th with our USS Navy vessels starting to move away as more of the Fukushima nuclear plant radiation started leaking out. We needed to move downwind, and we're also helping set up and advise the cordons and evacuations for these areas as the radiation is starting to spread. So when it comes to setting up a cordon, you're going to have entry control points and tactical control points. As a civilian might know what those are, entry control points are going to be one ways of entry and one ways of exit. Usually you only have one, maybe two. For the tactical control points, those are just going to be having set up vehicles and officers there and military personnel to help guide those evacuating to get them out of the area in a safely fashion and an organized fashion. Now, we also have a casualty collection area. I'm not going to name that off, but that is where sadly casualties are being collected and identified at the moment. And we also have a aid station. We have medical set up helping aid these individuals that are severely damaged. The U.S. aircraft stopped dumping on water on nuclear power plants. It's causing too much radiation hazard. It was one of the ways of going ahead and cooling down this nuclear reactor, but we are going to go ahead and stop doing that as of March 14th. Now, I just want to touch on ALARA, which is going to be as low as reasonably achievable. If you're in any of these cordons, exclusion zones, or evacuation areas, you need to stay as far away as possible from the Fukushima power plant due to radiation. And I'm going to quickly touch on a term that I'm not supposed to use. I can get in trouble for this, which is going to be STD, shielding time and distance. Shielding is going to be, having as much material as you can away from ionizing radiation. Timing is going to be limiting the amount of time you are spent near radiation, and distance is going to be going ahead and getting out of the area. Thank you guys, and I'll go ahead and return it back to Vincent.
Thank you for the report and for your service on the front lines. While soldiers are risking their lives to protect residents, another challenge is unfolding: the financial cost of this disaster. Who will pay? And how will Japan afford such a massive cleanup? For more on the economic impact, we turn now to reporter Nicole, who has been investigating the money behind Fukushima.
Thank you, Vincent. I'm here near the Temco company. We are finding out tonight that the Fukushima disaster is not only a nuclear crisis, but also a money crisis. The damage is massive and the price tag keeps climbing higher every single day. Already, billions of dollars have been spent on cleaning up radioactive areas, moving families out of danger zones, and supporting people who lost their homes, their jobs, and in some cases, their entire communities. Experts warn this is only the beginning, with costs expected to rise for many years ahead. At first, TEPCO, the Tokyo Electric Power Company, was supposed to handle these bills. After all, it was their nuclear plant, so naturally, the responsibility should be falling on them. But the numbers are becoming so large that many are now asking if TEPCO can really pay for it all. Reports suggest the Japanese government may soon have to step in, using taxpayers' money to keep the company from collapsing under the weight of these costs. This raises big questions about fairness. Should TEPCO, the company responsible, be protected while everyday citizens carry the financial burden through higher taxes? Critics power out the TEPCO had been warned about safety issues years before the disaster, yet didn't act strongly enough to fix them. Now, instead of paying the full price for their mistakes, many of the responsibility may end up falling on the public. And this is not just a short-term problem. Experts say that the cleanup will last at least 30 to 40 years, and maybe even longer. Radioactive waste must be stored safely. Entire towns need to be cleared of contamination, and thousands of families are still waiting for the day they can return home. This means money will keep being spent for decades, and Japan will carry this heavy burden for generations to come. One evacuee told reporters, "We lost our home, our land, and our job. Now we don't know when we'll ever be able to return." Their story is just one of many as families struggle to rebuild their lives while also facing the possibility of paying through taxes for the very disaster that unrooted them. So the big question remains, who is really paying for Fukushima? Is it TEPCO, the company that owned the plant, or is it the citizens of Japan who have already lost so much? Homes, jobs, and money, and now possibly their future tax dollars. For more of how the crisis is being felt in everyday life, let's now go to a local resident who is living through the impact of the disaster.
My name is Akira. I live in Katsura village near the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant. I can remember so clearly the ground shook so hard I thought my house would just fall apart. After that, the tsunami warnings came. Loud sirens all over our village was heard, and everyone was freaking out. Everyone was scared. Everyone was nervous. And then after that, we heard news about the nuclear power plant accident. It was unreal. Just this morning, we were told that everyone within 20 kilometers of the Fukushima nuclear plant needs to be evacuated. Officials came through with loudspeakers telling to get our families together and bring what is only necessary, like food, medicine, clothing, and some sort of identification. That's it. I mean, we couldn't grab anything else that is important to us. They said that radiation had reached our area and it was too dangerous to stay, and we just had to go. We couldn't do anything about it. I can't describe the feeling. Everything changed in just few hours. The buses came in early in the morning. Me and my wife, we were praying together as we were leaving our house. But deep down, I don't think I'll ever see my home again. The roads were packed. People rushing all over the place in every direction, trying to get away. The sirens, the confusion. It feels like a nightmare. We were taken to a school gym in Saitama Prefecture with hundreds of other families, and it's far away from the plant. Government workers were using this scanning device. They were scanning our whole body uh, before we can ever go in. I think it was to detect if we have radiation in our body. They say we will stay here until it is safe to return. But honestly, when will that be? It could be years, it could be months. We don't know. They didn't give us any information. I've heard from some families that they will be sent to Koriyama or Iwaki into a temporary housing. But for now, we just have a bunch of blankets in the floor gym, and they gave us cardboard so we can have space for privacy. It's just awful. How do I feel? I feel lost. I feel scared. The earthquake and the tsunami already destroyed so much, and now it's this. We have this invisible danger, which is the radiation. It forces us to abandon everything: our homes, our neighbors, our neighborhood. I didn't even get the chance to get my pet. I, I I've just lost everything. I keep looking back, wondering if this is the last time I'll ever see my home again. I also feel bad about, the children and the elderly who are, some are 80 years old, 90 years old, in this kind of situation. And it just makes me feel sad.
Thank you to our reporters, to the soldiers who shared his experience, and to the resident who told us their story. We know conditions in Fukushima remain dangerous, and we hope all of you guys out there to continue to stay safe. Tonight, as we close our coverage, let's take a step back and look at what this disaster means, not only today, but for the future. In the first hours after the meltdown, the Japanese government moved quickly. More than 150,000 people were evacuated from the Fukushima region. Families left behind homes, farms, and businesses not knowing if they would ever return. Soldiers delivered food and supplies, and TEPCO workers risked their lives to cool the damaged reactors with seawater. This was Japan's immediate response. Urgent, desperate, and absolutely necessary to prevent further disaster. But the real challenge began after the evacuations, the cleanup. Crews in protective suits started digging up contaminated soil, washing down homes and schools, and sealing radioactive waste in millions of heavy black bags. And still, no one knows where all of this waste will go, or how long it will remain dangerous. Then there is the financial cost. The government has already spent trillions of yen, making this one of the most expensive cleanup in history. TEPCO, the company responsible, was expected to pay. But when the cost exploded, the burden shifted to the government and taxpayers. Reports of fraud and corruption, inflated contracts, and wasted funds have only made the situation worse. Experts warn the cleanup could take 30, 40, or even 50 years. Future generations will still be paying the price of this disaster. And behind these facts are the people of Fukushima. Families are still displaced. Children are growing up far from the homes they were born. For them, the Fukushima disaster is not just a news story. It is their daily reality. And beyond Japan, the world is watching. Other nations are now rethinking nuclear power, asking themselves if this could happen in Japan, one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world, could it happen anywhere? So tonight, we leave you with this. Fukushima is not just a story of what happened, but of what is still happening. The road ahead is long, but the spirit of the Japanese people remains strong. This is Vincent reporting live. Thank you for joining us tonight. To the people of Fukushima and to all of those watching, stay strong, stay safe, and have a good night.